All right. So next is pearls versus turds. The scoreboard right now is 14 pearls, 45 turds, and 23 ties. Here's where we take advice that people have heard elsewhere and want to know whether it's true. And Molly writes in here and says, "Hey, Ben and Nathan, is this true? I've seen this advice on a couple of different Facebook groups, but never heard you guys mention anything like this on the show. Thanks, Molly." Um, okay. How much of this do we want to, I guess, read? I guess we'll read the whole thing
Oh,
here.
yeah. I mean, I've already read it. It's while it's great to recognize, while it's great to read. By the way, where did this come from? Instagram? Is that Instagram?
It looks like Facebook, maybe.
I don't
I
use
don't
either
know
of those.
actually.
So it's
Yeah,
some internet.
maybe it's Instagram. Yeah, who
I
knows?
don't know. Says while it's great to retake the LSAT in the hopes of improving your score, many schools view increases of more than 3 points as an irregularity. To help offset raised dash eyebrows, you would never put that's a random dash. That's just a dash between two words. Just sprinkle it in there. I don't know. Put it in there. Anyway, to help wherever you think. To help offset raised eyebrows, simply write an addendum. It can slash likely should be just a paragraph explaining whatever led to your increase in score. I'm already skeptical.
Yeah.
But then listen to this. For example, were there distractions the first time you took the test? Did you simply devote more time to studying slash preparing? Did you have an recently diagnosed ailment, such as testing anxiety, etc.? So there are three different examples there, and I do think that they kind of should be addressed independently of one another. I can't imagine lumping those things together.
Okay. So, no, absolutely not. I think the biggest problem with this advice, so I'm going to give it a turd right now,
Yep.
is that it's inviting people to write an addendum, but not giving them directions as to what they should write about. And that is where people are going to bury themselves. They are going to write the stupidest reasons, and then any help that may have been gained from this addendum is going to be completely lost. And now they're going to sound like an idiot. Um, I think addendums are these landmines. Is that the right phrasing? For these traps for
Yeah.
people. They start like, what is it? I think in the spycraft world, it's called like vomiting information. Like you just start,
Mm-hmm.
you know, revealing all this stuff that you shouldn't reveal, and it would have been better for you, as it
Yep.
was for Jake, to shut up.
Well, like for background, law schools only care about your highest score. The reason why law schools only care about your highest score is that the American Bar Association only cares about your highest score. They literally require law schools to disclose the highest LSAT score of each member of their incoming class.
Yep.
That's the information that gets put into their 509 reports. That's the information that gets sent to US News. US News doesn't have your lower LSAT scores. US News only has the highest score for each person in the incoming class. US News then turns around and uses the highest LSAT score from each member of the incoming class to create highly influential law school rankings that the schools are very interested in. So, if the American Bar Association and US News only care about the highest score, then law schools have a huge incentive to only really care about your highest score, which always leaves me scratching my head. Why is it that these admissions folk tend to say, well, no, I mean, it's true. We use your highest score, but if we see an increase of more than X points, it does raise our eyebrows. They literally use that phrase. Yeah, we sometimes we'll raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
And I wonder why they even say that. But what you just said, Ben, bringing up spycraft, it
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, maybe what they do is they just kind of say that to see whether you'll disclose something that you basically should not disclose,
Absolutely.
including
You got
the
an
elephant in the
accommodation.
room. Yes, if you say, oh, I scored a lot higher because I have a recently diagnosed ailment, such as anxiety,
Yeah.
ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, depression, whatever it is, if you disclose that to them, they're legally not allowed to ask you that
Yeah.
because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. They
Yeah.
can't ask you that question, but you might just volunteer it.
Yep.
It's like a spy. You couldn't get any information out of them, and then you're just like, before you let them go, you're like, anything else you want to tell us? And the spy's like, well, I mean, the code is whatever. Just the
No,
fact that
they just raise their eyebrows as they're leaving. And people are so panicky, they just like start vomiting information.
this is garbage. This is a turd. This is a double turd. I wish I could give it 2 turds, but we already updated the scoreboard. Um, if you please do not disclose that to them, because then they'll immediately go, oh yeah, see, they had a 150 and then they had a 150 and then they had a 160, but see what they said here in this addendum, that they have a recently diagnosed ailment such as testing anxiety. And then they'll go, what that means is they got accommodations for the last time they took the test. So yeah, they have a 160. And again, that's all US News and the American Bar Association
That's all
care
they
about.
care
So
about.
maybe that's all the school cares about. But to the extent that they actually do give a shit, this addendum would only hurt you. It would never help you. It's not
It would
like they're
never
going to
have
go, oh, you scored higher because you got a accommodations. Oh, good. Okay, great. Now we understand. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. My eyes were, my eyebrows were raised, but now they can come back down.
No, that would make it worse. It's like
It would
you
make it,
don't.
yeah. Well,
It,
see, that's the thing is, okay, they're legally not allowed to discriminate on the basis of that information, but that's not going to stop them from discriminating because they're saying, wait a sec, I got a 160 here from someone who supposedly does not have accommodations, and I have a 160 here with someone who does have accommodations. I'm not just submitting your 160 to US News and World Report. I'm also betting on you as a successful student here at this school. And frankly, someone who didn't have twice as much time as you did is probably in a better position to succeed.
these other reasons, I mean, saying there were distractions the first time you took the test is it's just kind of a lame, everybody's got
Oh, that's the thing.
excuses.
That's where people start to sound really like naive or
Like a
petty
crybaby.
or yeah.
Nobody
So it's
wants to
better
hear
not
about
to
that
say
shit.
anything. Hmm?
Just don't say,
Yeah.
yeah, nobody wants to hear about that shit. How about this one? Oh, did you simply devote more time to studying and preparing? Like, if
That
that's
sounds
what you
stupid
said,
too. I wasn't ready.
yeah, it makes you look like you're naive and you weren't ready the first time. And you're like, well, I realized that I actually had to study for the LSAT. So I did. Like,
And that's what
that's not
people
a,
say. I
how's that help
realized the
your
test is
case?
harder than I thought it was. It's like, okay, we don't want to
No,
go on your journey with you. Here's the thing. So we're going to give you the straight advice. Do not write an addendum simply because your score changed, even if it changed a lot.
literally
Us-
everyone who takes, not literally everyone, if you take the test multiple times, it is extremely likely that your score is going to change by 3 points one way or the other.
yeah, this is such a small number. I mean, people
This would
change by
apply to
10 points.
everyone. Like
Yeah.
almost everyone who took the test multiple times would be having to write an addendum. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. So don't write an addendum, even if your score increases a lot. You do not need to do that. Do not communicate with them about this. I have heard that schools ask occasionally. If they do, the answer is always the same. My practice test scores indicated that I could do better. So I took it again. Period.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Done. Nothing
Yeah.
else to say.
write the show, help@thinkinglsat.com, if you ever have an experience where that doesn't work. But yeah, I would wait for them to ask for it. Or maybe if their application specifically says, we require an addendum for
Yeah.
anybody who had a score increase over X.
Yeah.
But in that case, if they require you to answer that question, it's a stupid question for them to ask. Except I think really maybe it's a genius question, because the reason why they're asking it is to see if you'll disclose something stupid that you don't have to disclose.
Yep.
So maybe it is like genius. And
Yeah.
and I gotta think that these days, now that everybody gets accommodated who asks,
Yeah.
now that everybody gets accommodated who wants accommodations, it's maybe smart of them to ask to see if you'll just disclose.
Yeah. So they
And
can
if you do,
better
you
assess
lose.
your
So that's
numbers.
dumb.
Yeah.
And but yeah, wait for them to require you to answer that question and then just say what Ben said, which is my practice test scores indicated that I could do better. So I took it again. And that's it. You do not need to say anything more. God, that's bad
Yeah.
advice. Oh, dear God. Be careful what you read on the internet, y'all. Right now, again, to recap the scoreboard on Pearls versus Turds, this is episode 300 of the show, Ben. We've been doing Pearls versus Turds for at least a couple hundred episodes. And we have 14 pearls against 46 turds and 23 ties. And the ties are basically turds. So we're looking at a, maybe 1/4 success rate
Yeah.
on all of the advice that has been submitted to the show. By the way, if you want to submit a pearls versus turd candidate, you can email help@thinkinglsat.com, or you can find us on social @thinkinglsat.
Cool. All right. Thanks for sending that in, Molly.